All right, hello gamers, Mukluk here, and today we have tried out another pure DPS build in Guild Wars 2 to see what it's like. For anyone who's not been following the series, the I Tried series is basically I try out a character that I do not main. I play it for like 2 hours. I then, try it out in various content and group stuff and see what it's like. What would it be like for you if you decided to try this character out? This is the Power Spellbreaker. It is a type of warrior for anyone new to the game, and as always, first off, I am going to beat on this golem for a few seconds to display that I have a general knowledge of how to do this. Okay, so starting off, I'm going to do a headbutt, and then the 4, and then weapon slot, what to do, and 3, and 4, and spin, and then the 2, and F1 again, and weapon slot, F1, and 2, and 5, which resets the cooldown of 2, and 3, and 4. And we just auto for a few seconds, waiting on this. Do that, weapon swap, do that. 3, 4, bolt charge, 5, 2, and F1 again, and 27k. Not one of my best ones. Oh, I don't have food buffs. Okay, so without food buffs, I did 27k. On many of my attempts, I was able to break 30k, and on one of the strike missions today, which was against a single target that I got to utilize the full counter aspect of the build quite often, I was able to break 33k. So that's what I was able to do after 2 hours. My peak was 33k. How was it? Or how does this work? So let me respawn the golem so I leave combat for, oh, I already did. So the build that I used, I got from Guild Gen. I made a couple of very small changes to it that worked well for me. Got just full berserker gear, so it's all power, hammer, sword, dagger axe, hammer, dagger axe, runes of the Dragon Hunter, sigil of force and impact on both weapon sets. Over here, there's that if you want to copy it, that's what we're using. And how does this work? The TLDR is this build, whenever you do something that is a CC. So for example, Disrupting Stab does a 250 Defiance break, and I just get, yeah, I get a little bit of stability. I get stability for a few seconds. Additionally, I get a massive damage increase while I have stability. So the way it generally works is you use something that gives you stab, and then you do some other moves, and then you use something that gives you stab, and then you use some other moves, and you just keep doing that. There's like a rhythm to it. And I copied the rotation from them, and I basically learned that. So there was a rotation, and I was adhering to it, and like every third or fourth skill in the rotation was a crowd control. That also was kind of funny whenever the boss would, get like a break bar, and I'm like, oh no! Anyway, because I was doing my CC moves basically every time they light up. Now, in general, I don't like when I have to burn my CC moves on cooldown because I don't have them when they're available. However, this class has so many of them, it's like every time, even if all my stuff was on cooldown, if the boss had a break bar come up, one of my moves that did CC was coming off cooldown in the next 2 seconds. So it was like, okay, I guess I better keep doing what I'm already doing. There's no big change there, so that was kind of cool. Additionally, the excessive amounts of self-stability can help, keep you from getting ping-ponged around the room if your healer kind of is failing to give you the stability at the right moments, so that was kind of cool. You also have 24k health, very healthy boy here. Additionally, you have some self-healing as you use adrenaline, so you've got a solid amount of health, pretty high uptime on self-stability, decent amounts of self-healing from adrenal health, and full counter lets you occasionally block attacks and then just send it back at them. The general rule of thumb is if there is an attack coming at you that you can dodge, roll, or block, you can full counter it. If it's not dodgeable or blockable, don't try to full counter it, because it's not going to work. So after I learned that, the best example I've got of that is on the Bone Skinner. The Bone Skinner, one of the strike bosses that I used for testing this build, he would occasionally charge away or leap into the air, and there's these big red circles, and standard is to dodge roll the giant red circle. I full countered him every single time. And each time, I did not have to stop doing DPS, and also I did a huge hit back at him, which was able to increase my damage output. Additionally, if you land the full counter, you get back a lot of the energy you spent, so it's like you use a pip and then get a pip back, and then it's like nothing is lost as long as you're timing it well. Full counter felt good to use. I like moves that reward you for good response timing. Warrior Staff has a move called Bullet Catcher. You use it, it blocks attacks. You use it again, you return the damage. Great Sword on Revenant, I believe it's the 4 button, has a block, and then if you click it again after successfully blocking something, you hit them back with an attack that's juiced by the amount of damage you blocked. I was able to hit Bone Scanner with that for 30 to 40k, blocking the same thing. I like those moves. They felt good to use. If I'm comparing this to the other warrior class moves I've recently done, when I did Alack Bladesworn or Quick Berserker, this felt the best, the most fun. That F word that Reddit hates? This felt the best to me to use. Because Berserker is just like, here's the F1 key. And then, basically the Berserker could have been replaced by one of those water birds just put on the keyboard. It's the same dude. The Bladesworn is just like, okay, I'm charged. You can get up, go make a sandwich, come back, and then finish the slash. So, I mean, I felt like all the thrill of fishing when I was playing Bladesworn, because they just long breaks in between hitting buttons. There was long periods of time I wasn't playing Guild Wars 2. This felt very interactive and very fun just by adding the full counter. It actually made me wish that this class gave alacrity or quickness, because this one was enjoyable. I had fun playing this one. Additionally, a common thing that people will do with this build is use Winds of Disenchantment as the opener. Well, when you have Winds of Disenchantment out, you have a lightning field around you, and then any big hits you do in it will do, you see like Dazing Strike just popped up there, and they become CC hits. And that allows them to stack up a buff. There's a buff right here called Attacker's Insight. Every time you land a CC type attack, Attacker's Insight will increase your power, precision, and ferocity for 15 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. It does not refresh based on duration. It refreshes based on intensity. So the oldest one is constantly wearing off. Whenever the boss would go invulnerable, such as Franier in Icebird Saga when he would change phases, I would lose all the stacks of this. It felt awful in those situations. Those was a time where it's like all my built-up momentum would go out the window, and I'd have to start over when he could be attacked again. Because that was happening on mini fights anyway, I didn't like devoting a 90-second cooldown to just burning the first 5 seconds to get a few more stacks of that buff in the opening little bit of the fight. Instead, I opted to bring Battle Standard, which was listed as an alternative option that you could bring to the fight. Which Battle Standard, most people know what it is, but it is a cooldown, that just a little cast bar, and whoom, and then it resurrects up to 5 people, I believe. So there was a couple times during some fights where I was able to just drop that and instantly res a small stack of people. Didn't make any huge life-saving plays during the trials that I did today, but it felt good having that in the back pocket, just like how Quickness Untamed can have Nature Spirit on the Elite, which has got a emergency move that resurrects a big group of people. So that was really awesome to have and felt better than having the bubble there to me. But you could bring the bubble to just have a little bit faster ramp up time at the opening of the fight, but then it's on cooldown for a long time. So what are my notes about this class? Spellbreaker. It did, according to Snowcrows, they're able to do 40k with it. I was able, on my best attempt, to do 33k, and that was with mini counters. So I'm comparing their best attempt on a dummy to my best attempt on a real foe, and a Spellbreaker does more damage on a real foe than on a dummy. This is actually, I think, the closest in like on each of these I played for like 2 hours. This is pretty close. Like the range between their benchmark and what I was able to pull was really good considering how little time I played this. The gear, again, was Berserkers. I played a power build. It was easy to learn. It was between easy to medium. It wasn't too bad. CC was good in total. Let's see, they've got, this is 250. This is, let's see, Breaching Strike is not one, sorry. Full counter is 100. Bull's Charge is 300. And then if we weapon swap here, the Hammer 4 is 150. The Hammer 5 says 700. And I got so excited when I saw this. I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Signet of Humility only does 600. This does 700. And chat's like, no, it doesn't. Apparently what it does is it does 300. But if they have weakness on them, it does 400 instead of 300. And for some insane reason, this tooltip just decided to add 300 to 400 together and gives you 700. It does not do 700. It never does 700. It's never done 700. This is apparently a commonly known bug that they need to fix, but it says 700, and that's a lie. So there you go. I played this class for 2 hours, and I'm doing Q&A for Warriors once again. So hopefully they fix that. So that was the next thing. Beyond that, let's see. What utility do they have? They can bring an AoE revive banner at a minor DPS loss. They have lots of self-stability uptime. They have massive amounts of boon rips. Just in their stuff, they have a lot of skills related to the dagger that either remove boons from the foe or just hit like a truck if the foe has no boons. So, Spellbreaker, living up to its namesake. It has boon rip in the rotation, always, almost always on demand. Solid self-sustain, again, 24k health, has self-stability applications, has lots of self-healing with adrenal health, has full counter to avoid hits without having to do like a dodge or something to get out of various things. So it did, very good in terms of like, not glass. Like among glass cannon DPS, this is pretty sturdy, because I'm wearing gear that has no vitality or toughness on it, and we've got like all of that. So among those people, very solid. What else did I put? Is it ranged or melee? 100% melee. One of the things I did today was, because I did pug strikes, is I joined a very sketch Harvest Temple. And the people there were wonderful, and they were patient, but it did not go smoothly. It was like a freaking 20-minute fight or something, and 5 of us were alive for half of the encounter. But we didn't have to wipe it, so we just finished it like that. And as a result of that, when Zaitan's Giants came out and spit the death juice all over the place, which kills melee, I had to back up, and I could hardly do anything. I was killing occasional ads that spawned. When the giant when the spit would disappear, I'd run in and get a couple of melee hits in, and then I'd have to back out again. But I felt 100% useless in that phase. So if there's a part where you need to do range, this ain't it. At least not with these weapons. Maybe there's another weapon set for Spellbreaker that has a ranged option, I don't know. But with this typical build right here, it just consider it 100% melee for all intents and purposes. How intense was it? Like, was it a low intensity build, a high intensity build like Berserker? I'd say low to mid. You had a rotation. It was not that bad pressing the buttons. It was just one, then the next, then the next. It wasn't anything too crazy. Even if you're using full counter periodically, it doesn't have, like a 4-second cooldown or whatever the Berserker Axe F1 is, or you're beating the F1 key. It's nothing like that. So usually, like when you swap into, because I'm using dagger, axe, and hammer, basically like when I swap into that weapon, I'll use the F1, do other stuff, use the F1 again, swap out. So the F1 is like the first and last move I use in between each weapon swap. So it wasn't anything too intense. Did I find it fun? I had fun on fights where I could counter often. I had a lot more fun. And again, as far as what I used it on today, Bone Skinner was the biggest example of that. Because on some strike missions, the mobs will just target a specific individual. You can't be full countering that if they're not trying to hit you. Bone Skinner just nukes the whole room, and there's visual indicators of when it's coming. So I could just basically not dodge those giant room nukes and just full counter all of them, and it was a whole lot of fun, and it was very rewarding. And so it did a lot of return damage, it kept me alive, I didn't have to stop attacking, stuff like that. Also, I didn't even mention the heal. I don't really have any moments where I did anything clutch with the heal, but the heal, similar to the Untamed one that we talked about some time ago, you activate this, first of all, super fast cast time. Look at this. That's it. It's a 1/4 of a second. So it does have a cast bar, so you can't use it while you're in the middle of another action, but it's incredibly fast. And then for the next 4 seconds, any hits that come at you will heal you. So you'll still get conditions, but if those conditions tick while that window of time is open, they're healing you instead of damaging you, and any power damage is healing you. Now, it doesn't make you invulnerable. If you're hit by a knockback, you'll still go flying, but you can use that to stay alive, and that is a fantastic healing move for group content. It is very, very good. We've got these 2 signets that I basically, never hit these buttons, and Bull's Charge is in the rotation. You use that right before the Whirling Axe, which gives you one of those damage buffs that we talked about earlier. Now, I've only got 1 Attacker's Insight right now. It stacks up to 5, so it could be stronger. Also, when I did the target dummy test, you notice I usually just do all conditions, all boons. This guy actually does more damage when he has stability, and that takes more damage when it has weakness. So I did not add those to get a more realistic result, because if I was doing the test with 100% uptime on that boon and that condition, then we would get an unrealistic number. So I only used whatever stability I generated on myself during the test and whatever weakness I generated on him during the test, just to try to keep it as consistent, as real as possible. And I think that's it. So yeah, taking it again from the top, not too bad to learn. Well, I think within 5 attempts, I was able to break 30k DPS following the guide on Guild Gen. The only thing I think I changed from there is I realized I was over crit cap, and they recommended Sigils of Accuracy, which gives more crit, and I didn't need it, so I changed it for Impact and Force. So that one thing I copied from Snowcrows, and spent some time learning the rotations, went into strikes, and again, it was really sturdy, was able to survive a lot of group mistakes. It was a pretty sketch pug, but we were able to clear all of the daily content, including Temple of Phoebe, where the boss got a heal off and also got to like 24 stacks of the buff or something. Harvest Temple, which took like 20 minutes, but we did it. And I was able to, again, when I had the most practice on the final fight, I was pulling 33k at that point and keeping myself alive through all kinds of bad situations. So it was good. It was good. Definitely recommend it. If your taste in what you play is anything similar to mine. Of all the warrior builds that are DPS variants, you know, I'm removing staff from the equation because staff was hella fun. But of all the DPS variants of warriors I've experienced so far, I had absolutely the most fun playing this one, and it was very good at what it did. And yeah, maybe you'll like it too. But yeah, if you got any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, or input on how I could have done this better, throw it in the comment section down below, and I will fight you there.